Hi, fantasy readers. This is Karyne Norton, your fellow book binger, and you are listening to the Finding Fantasy Reads podcast, where you can test out a new fantasy story every single week to find your next favorite author. You'll want to stick around for today's story if you like stories that explore the darker side of mermaids. It's written by Kimberly Grymes, who enjoys piling too many projects on her plate and then complaining to her husband that there's not enough time in the day. And then he politely reminds her that she does this because she loves her job and loves connecting with so many wonderful readers and writers. She enjoys spending the little spare time she has with her husband, 3 kids, and their 2 mini pins, Jubilee and Corey. Our family sticks with hypoallergenic dogs, so I'm sadly not familiar enough with dog breeds, and I had to look that one up. I didn't even know there were miniature pinschers, let alone that they were called mini pins. But the pictures were very cute. Stick around to the end or check out today's show notes to see where you can find more from Kimberly. For now, please enjoy Glace Noir by Kimberly Grymes. Intro. If the people of Dorian remember my birth name, they don't use it. They only know me now as Glace Noir, the underwater creature that lives in the South Side Cove along Lake Grogan. I know this because every now and then, someone will come to the water's edge and call to me, begging me to end the everlasting winter cycle I've cursed the kingdom of Dorian to live. Glace Noir, please release us from the endless winter, they plead. I find it amusing that more recently they've started adding, or at least let us die, to their pathetic requests. My answer is always the same, regardless if I let the messenger live or not. I tell them, when you release me, then I shall release the kingdom. I can't help the cackles that escape, echoing throughout the cove and mocking their request for freedom. To be honest, this whole you curse me and I curse you thing is quite ridiculous. And it wasn't my fault to begin with. Dorian wouldn't even be in this predicament if the people would only stand up to the one person who can really end their misery. Their beloved ruler, my brother, King Philip. I wasn't always this fearsome creature cursed to an underwater prison. And just because I cannot recall how long it's been since I've walked dry land, that doesn't mean I've forgotten my life from before. I will never forget. Never. Then, Dorian's downfall began long before I was born, when a lonely king pressured to take a wife from one of the surrounding kingdoms fell in love with a commoner from the north. Being from the north may sound harmless, but the people of my mother's village were widely known for their mysterious and unearthly powers. The southern kingdoms feared the magic my mother's people possessed, so they banned anyone from traveling beyond the snowy borders leading into the northern lands. But my father, King Sebastian, went anyway. He was known for his stubborn ways, doing whatever he deemed beneficial for his kingdom. "It is my kingdom, and I shall rule as I see fit," he would say to anyone questioning his orders. In secrecy, he told me that the real reason he wanted to travel north was because he was curious to know if the rumors were true, if there really was magic. It was during his first visit to the snowy lands that he fell in love with one of the northern commoners, my mother. The two were married within 6 months, making her Dorian's new queen, but by title only. It took a long time for the people of Dorian to even glance her way. Not until years later, when she gave birth to me and my twin brother Philip, did they begin to accept her into their hearts. But only as the mother of their future heir, not as their queen. Our mother might have come from the frigid north, but her heart was warm with love for her family and the kingdom. She never minded the whispers or the fake smiles. She was just happy they were smiling. I wish I'd paid more attention to the signs of my brother's discontent. Maybe if I'd attended court more often and mingled with the lords and council members. But attending court was boring and swallowed up the whole day. To me, that was valuable time I preferred to spend with Mother, reading her books about the history of her people and learning how to use the magic that flowed through my veins. While I kept to my books, Philip spent his days following Father around, trying to take an active role in running a kingdom. Father indulged Philip's keen interest because he was a kind man who loved his son. Though, whenever I was nearby, Father would single out my opinion on matters of the kingdom. Philip would offer his solution, but Father only cared to hear what I had to say. This angered my brother, but I always mistook it as sibling rivalry. Then, one day, Mother pulled me aside and warned me to be mindful of Philip's temper. We were getting older, and his childish tantrums had festered into something dark. She explained to me, "You might have been born on the same day, but you came into this world 3 minutes before Philip. You, Celeste, are the rightful heir, not him. So please, be careful." I didn't believe her. Philip was my brother, and we were family. He would never go so far as to hurt me just for the crown. For many years, we continued in our daily routines. Philip kept his distance, which was fine by me. I rarely attended court, spending most afternoons with Mother in the northern tower of the castle. I'd reread her old spellbooks and practice the ancient language of the north. Mother would praise me on how my casting abilities were beyond what she could do when she was 20 years of age. Then, one day, things took a turn for the worse. I'd been so consumed by my studies that I hadn't realized Father had grown extremely ill. The last night we spoke, the night he passed away, he asked me one thing. "Please, Celeste, promise me that you'll give Dorian the attention it deserves. Don't run away from your duties as their future queen. Be strong, stand tall, and show them the powerful ruler I know you can be." Father's death was hard, but it hit Philip harder. My brother wouldn't even look at me after that night, as if it were my fault Father had died. Over the next few days, the lords of the royal court rallied against my mother. They said it wasn't right for an outsider to rule over Dorian, especially one from the northern lands. Their anger and disapproval spread like wildfire throughout the kingdom. Farmers, fishermen, blacksmiths, bakers, and others all joined in protest, saying the king's wife had no place as their queen. Afraid for her life, our mother made a deal with the lords to step down and allow King Sebastian's next of kin to take the throne. Me. I only agreed to become queen to alleviate the tension the lords had created with the citizens of Dorian. And it seemed to work. Everyone liked the idea of me becoming their next queen. Everyone except Philip, which I didn't realize until it was too late. I'll never forget the morning of my coronation, because it followed the night of my mother's murder. I awoke to Philip standing over my bed. His expression was like stone, as was his delivery. "She's dead. Mother's no longer with us. Now get dressed. It's your big day." His words took some time to sink in. He explained the culprit had escaped the castle grounds before anyone realized she'd been killed. Then, while I still lay in my bed, in a daze from the news, he turned and left. The loud slam of the oak door jostled me to my senses, and, wasting no time, I hurried to dress myself. The last thing I wanted was to face my ladies-in-waiting, or anyone else for that matter. I didn't want their sad eyes burrowing into me, or their condolences weighing on my already heartbroken thoughts. It was all too much. First losing Father, and then Mother. And to top it off, later that day I was expected to pledge my loyalty and devotion to Dorian as their new ruler. A birthright I had no desire to fulfill. I needed to get away, if only for a brief moment to regain my composure before standing in front of everyone at court. So I retreated to the one place I knew would bring me closer to her: the cove. Our castle had been built atop a shallow cliff overlooking Lake Groggan, and at the base of the cliff was a small cove. At first, it was impossible to reach, until Father commissioned quarry workers to chisel out a stairwell for better access. When the stairwell and pier were finished, he reserved the cove for his beloved wife and children. It was Mother's private sanctuary, a place she could go whenever she needed to escape the chaos of the castle. It was exactly what I needed. I grabbed my blue cloak and rushed down to the lowest level of the castle, deep beneath the rocky hillside where the entrance had been carved out at the base of the cliff. A chill hung in the air outside, as if winter wasn't ready to let spring have its turn. My boots sank in the cold sand as I raced across the beach toward the wooden pier. The second I stepped onto the first wooden plank, a strong wind rushed at me, lifting the fabric of my cloak into a fluttering ripple. It felt as if the wind were trying to lift me up and away, helping me to escape my troubles. When I reached the end of the pier, I fell to my knees and released the tears I'd been holding. I pounded my fists against the wood, then pressed both hands flat to the pier. The frost on the wood felt good against my heated skin. The cool relief shifted into a subtle vibration, making my palms tingle. It was as if the frost were reminding me of the magic running through my veins. Leaning into the wood, I opened my mind to the magic of the north. Mother once spoke of how the more powerful casters could communicate through thought, no matter the distance. So when a cluster of faint voices in the back of my mind grew louder, it only startled me for a brief moment, before I stopped crying and started listening. Their collective voices whispered inside my head, encouraging me to seek revenge for my mother's death. It might have been one hand that killed your mother, but the kingdom plotted as a whole. Punish them all. Give them something worse than death. No, I cried, shaking my head. I can't. I won't. Now, looking back, I cringe when I think about how naive I was during my days on land. Lifting the skirt of my dress, I moved closer to the edge of the pier. A layer of ice stretched out over the water, butting up against the rock wall that enclosed the cove from the rest of Lake Groggan. The morning sun peered through the narrow gap. Out in the distance, the waters of the lake glistened, while the waters within the cove remained dark. With one hand, I reached over the side of the dock and brushed away the thin layer of snow covering the white ice. Then, I pressed one hand to the surface and whispered the ancient words of the northern people. Like a flower blooming in spring, the opacity of the ice faded, expanding outward and providing a crystal-clear view to the waters below. A family of fish swam by, piquing my curiosity at how any creature could survive such freezing temperatures. I sat there, letting the world beneath the water distract me from the ache in my heart. In that moment, I wanted to stay there forever. I never wanted to be queen. I only wanted to live a happy life with my family and learn how to embrace my heritage. At that moment, I decided I was going to march into the royal courtroom and tell my brother he could have it all. "Celeste!" Philip called, interrupting my thoughts. I leaned up and faced my brother. He stood on the beach with a line of royal guards behind him, 5 on each side, standing at attention. Their gazes stared out past me. "Sister, I need you to come here," Philip called again. "Has something happened?" I asked, unsure of what this visit could mean. Why had he come to the cove with a protection detail? When I didn't move, he lifted his chin and straightened his stance. A passing breeze caught his hair, momentarily pushing back the wavy black strands that curtained his face. I remember there wasn't a hint of humor or kindness in his expression, only determination. The naive girl I was couldn't help but wonder what I'd done to anger him. So I stood and brushed my hands along my dress, straightening out any creases. I didn't realize I was in any danger until Philip stepped onto the pier. From beneath his cloak, hints of white light gleamed along the hemline. He's going to use magic on me. You see, I wasn't the only one who possessed the magic of the northern people. Philip did too. He didn't practice as often as I did, or so he wanted me to believe. But I knew he'd been practicing in secrecy. It amused me to watch him without him knowing. I guess I'd always hoped he'd set aside any ill-fated feelings for me because of the crown and remember our childhood friendship, to value our shared culture over politics. But seeing the stone-cold stare in his eyes that day as he approached me on the pier, I realized there was nothing between us. He only saw me as an obstacle in his way to the crown. I offered him a kind expression, hoping to give myself more time to think of a way out of this mess. If you're upset with me for wandering outside the castle without an escort, then I apologize. I needed some fresh air, that's all. I shall return shortly. Philip paused, halfway out onto the pier. The silence between us lingered as if he were trying to find the right words to a delicate conversation. Meanwhile, the magic in my core stirred, and the voices of the north returned, warning me. He's here to end you. I feared they were right, but to what degree? There was no way Philip would actually kill me. He wasn't a murderer. My heart raced as he lifted his hand from beneath his cloak. The tips of his fingers illuminated with a bright light. Celeste, daughter of King Sebastian and princess to the Dorian kingdom, I curse you to never set foot on land again. I bind you to the cove waters for eternity. No man, woman— Philip, no, please, I pleaded, but he didn't stop. Or child shall free you from your underwater prison. My gaze shifted from Philip to the icy water surrounding me. Your time is running out, princess, the voices in my head whispered. You know what you must do. Philip paused in his incantation. Celeste, I'm sorry about Mother. If it eases your mind, she didn't feel any pain. Then he closed his eyes and continued chanting the binding spell. I couldn't believe what he'd just confessed. The sound of his voice faded, replaced by the pounding of my heart. A cold, tingling sensation coursed through my veins. When I glanced at my hands, the tips of my fingers had turned white. Frost crystals sprawled up my hands, wrists, and arms in an intricate lattice pattern. The power inside me pulsed, sinking with my raging heart. The northern magic was right. They must all be punished. I lowered my head and whispered a counterspell. Oh, no, you don't. He raised his other arm, and with both glowing hands aimed at me, he shouted, I claim your magic, Celeste, as my own. He reached out and began pulling an invisible rope, a tether that yanked at my insides. No! I screamed, holding on to my magic. I had no idea where he'd learned such a spell, to steal the power of another. It was nothing Mother ever shared with me, or anything I'd read of in her spell books. Tick-tock, tick-tock, the northern magic whispered in my mind. Your future is inevitable, but you can still claim your revenge. But you must hurry. Don't take my magic, Philip. It's all I have left of her. When he didn't falter, I acted. I looked to the sky, and with all my strength, I gathered whatever magic he hadn't stolen from me yet into my core. Then I called out to the magic of the north. Let my final spell's worth be equal to the love and devotion I have for my mother. Dipping my chin, I stared at Philip. You, brother, may claim my kingdom, but only until the curse you've bestowed upon me is broken. Let this kingdom be enveloped in snow and ice, and frozen in time for as long as I am a prisoner to this cove. Bowing my head, I spoke the ancient words, casting the spell that carried out my wishes. A ball of light the size of an apple shot out of my chest. Instead of flowing toward Philip, the last of my magic flew upward into the sky and exploded, raining down as a flurry of thick snow. It took a few seconds for Philip to notice the snow, because he was still reveling in his newly acquired power. I'll handle the weather after I've finished dealing with you. His ruthless expression finally broke, and a wide grin appeared. Now, off to your prison. From the palms of his hands, a burst of wind rushed at me, lifting me from the pier and tossing me over the side. As I was thrust backward, I stared up into the falling snow and thought, this is far from over, brother. My body slammed into the ice, shattering it like glass. I wriggled my cloak free from around my neck as my body sank deeper into the dark, icy waters of the cove. The corset of my dress pinched at my skin, and when I glanced down, the satin fabric had changed to shimmering scales. The skirt of my dress clung to my legs, twisting tighter and tighter until they were bound together and layered with large iridescent scales. At first, I struggled to swim, but then a wide, translucent fin unfolded where my feet should have been, allowing me to regain my balance. The long sleeves of my dress vanished, exposing the now bluish-green skin along my arms. My face and hair seemed untouched by my brother's spell that had changed me into something a fisherman might catch and cook. My lungs burned, and I couldn't hold my breath any longer. When I opened my mouth, cold water coated my throat and filled my lungs. At first, I thought I was drowning, but then I exhaled and inhaled. There was no pain, and it felt as natural to breathe in the water as it had in air. I blinked several times and my eyes adjusted. The midnight world beneath the water was no longer daunting, but beautiful. There were rock formations, plant life, and a variety of aquatic creatures swimming and walking along the lake floor. This is your curse, your prison for eternity. The collective of voices echoed in my mind. How can I still hear you? Using my tail fin, I spun in circles, seeking out their presence. I thought I lost all my magic. One can never completely lose their magic. It's a part of you, and as long as you're still alive, then so is your magic. Then I can fight now. I looked up to the surface. No, you're too weak. Let the kingdom simmer in their new prison. My spell worked? Indeed, child. Indeed. A shadow emerged over the broken edges of the ice above. With a flick of my tail, I swam closer, but not to where I'd be seen. It was Philip. His distorted appearance lingered over the pier's edge. I waited until I heard his footsteps pounding the wooden planks of the pier before getting a closer look. Carefully, I raised the top of my head from the water. Being able to cross the water's surface meant I could still interact with the world above, at least. Webbed fingers with long, pointy nails clutched the edge of the broken ice. The beach was empty, and a dusting of snow had already covered the sand. For a second, I thought Philip had left with his guards, but then he shouted into the air. Whatever you think you've done, I shall find a way to undo it. This is my kingdom now. Do you hear me? Dorian is mine. He stomped along the pier and trudged up the beach, never looking back as he disappeared through the carved archway of the cliffside. I let go of the ice and floated to the depths of my new prison. My body sank until it hit the sandy floor of the cove's bottom, causing a cloud of murky water to surround me. It was at that moment I decided I wasn't going to be the foolish little girl anymore. If it's a monster he wishes me to be, then it is a monster he will get. That was the last time I saw Philip. Over the years, he's never returned to the cove, and only sends expendable messengers, because he knows, even in his triumph, he's lost. Now, I'm barely awake when a man's voice calls to me from the world above. Glace Noir? Rolling over in my bed of silt, I hide my head beneath one arm, hoping the man will come to his senses and leave before. I hate thinking about the bloodshed, even if it is who I am now. Time means nothing anymore. The sun rises and sets, as does the moon, but the seconds and minutes and days never move forward. Surrounding the kingdom, so I've been told, is a magical barrier of snow. A non-stop blizzard so thick and high that no one can see the world beyond it. Are you down there? I have a message from the king. Of course I'm down here, you daft idiot, I think, while glaring up into the open waters. My gaze drifts to the green moss growing in the cracks of the rock walls surrounding me. I built the makeshift home during the first few months of my imprisonment. Those nights were some of the hardest. I slept alongside the wall I built, pretending I'd fallen asleep in Father's study, against the stone wall of the castle. Glace Noir? Ugh, fine. With an eye roll and a forceful whip of my tail, I push off from the cove floor. Cloudy water swirls within the enclosed circle of my home as I shoot upward into the open water. Even with the sunlight glimmering along the surface, the world down here is shrouded in an everlasting midnight blue. Arching my back, I stretch my arms over my head, grazing my fingers along the tip of my tail fin. I do a quick spin, shaking any remnants of sand from my hair, before swimming toward the shoreline. En route, I rip out a handful of pondweed and nibble on the ends before reaching the shallow area of the cove. I've never ventured up to the beach. Too risky. Instead, I prefer to lure my prey out onto the pier. I dive low beneath the pier, ignoring the skeletons that have piled up over the years at the base of the wooden posts. Coming to the other side of the pier, I lift my head out of the water, but only to the bridge of my nose. I watch the young man searching the waters along the shoreline. He looks like most, with his shabby locks sticking out beneath a wool cap, an old scarf wrapping his neck just below his thick beard, and tattered patches mending the heavy coat. I laugh when the idiot loses his balance and stumbles out into the water. He's barely in past the top of his boots, and yet he screams and splashes water everywhere in his pathetic retreat. Halfway up the beach, he spins, frantically patting his body down as if I were a leech and I've latched myself onto him. After seeing enough, I close my eyes and draw on the magic of the north. I'm supposed to be reserving it, but I can't help the bloodlust of the creature I've become. Silently, I call upon the magic for a simple glamour and an enchanting voice to help lure him. Previous encounters have taught me that approaching people as the aquatic creature I am scares them off. I've tried ignoring the lust inside me, but then I end up doing more than just drowning them. So this is the price I must pay each time my idiot brother sends a poor soul to the cove with one of his messages. When the glamour spell is complete, I peek around the support post. Hello? I say with a fragile voice. Appearing weak and nervous helps the illusion. What do you want? The man stops scrambling about, and when he spots me, moves closer. At the water's edge, he tugs off his wool cap and holds it to his chest, flattening his hair with his free hand. Eyes wide, he says, "You are as beautiful as they say." I give him a small smile, as if following a script in a play. I just want to get through all of this as fast as I can, so I dunk beneath the water, skipping past the monotonous small talk. They all ask the same questions. What's it like being a lake creature? Or will you please free the kingdom? Or why does no one age? The second I disappear, He starts yelling after me. "Wait, don't go. I have a message from the king." I couldn't care less about the message unless Philip were here to say it to my face. But he's not here, so I'm forced to listen to yet another pathetic attempt from one of my brother's expendable cronies. "I'm over here," I call out, resurfacing on the other side, a bit farther along the pier. The man hesitates, but only for a second, as if he's trying to resist, but he can't. Twisting his cap in his hands, he shuffles onto the pier. I swim backward, stopping at the end of the dock. He follows, though his gaze is focused on the open waters below. When he reaches the end, I ask, "What's your name?" Each word from my glamoured lips keeps him entranced. Crouching to one knee, he tells me, "Griffin." "Nice to meet you, Griffin." He glances toward the beach, then back to me. I know he's under my spell, yet something has him distracted. "Griffin, is everything okay?" "Yes, I haven't been completely honest with you." I sink my shoulders beneath the water's surface, a strange tightness pulling at my skin. I can't remember the last time I felt nervous, caught off guard, and by a simpleton. Every time Griffin turns and looks at the beach, I do too. What is he looking for? Twisting his cap, he sucks in the frigid air before asking, "I know you won't release the kingdom of your curse, but I was wondering—" "I will tell you," I interrupt, "what I tell the others begging me to end the kingdom's curse." I can't help the venom in my tone. I'm tired of being blamed for their misery. Warmer days will return once my brother releases me from this prison. He is the one responsible, and he is the only one who can undo all of this. Griffin's brows pinch together, and he licks his chapped lips before leaning closer. "Your brother? He's responsible for the curse? Not you?" I nod, my nose dipping into the water. I don't want to expose too much of myself in case there is a threat somewhere waiting for a vulnerable moment. A moment I refuse to give them. He slips the wool cap over his head and stands. Abruptly, he spreads his arms wide to the sky and shouts, "Thank you for hearing our prayers!" Eagerness has replaced his anxious nerves, which confuses me. "Where can I find your brother? I must speak with him." "My brother?" Griffin looks down at me, a smile stretching from ear to ear. "Oh, Glace Noir, this whole time we thought it was you. King Philip said it was you who cursed the kingdom, but it was your brother. Ha! Wait." He freezes on the dock, mid-excitement. "You said you've told this to others?" I nod, and he continues. "And then you—" He gestures to the water with his eyes. "Kill them?" I nod again. I've never lied. I may entice and lure people out to their deaths, but I've never lied. He shuffles from one corner of the dock to the other. "But why? Why not let them live so they can confront your brother? That would help you too, would it not?" I slowly glide beneath the water to the corner Griffin has moved to while answering. "It would, but you're all so devoted to Philip. You helped him plot against my mother. I will never forgive any of you for that." "Your mother?" Griffin narrows his eyes. "Philip? Like King Philip? You think he's your brother?" Griffin's words strike hard. Has it been so long since I've walked on land that they've all forgotten about me, their beloved princess? "What is my name?" The man glances over at the beach, then back at me. "Glace Noir." "No, that is the name my brother, your king, gave me after he turned me into this monster and imprisoned me in this cove." I pause, letting that bit of information sink in. "My name is Celeste, and I was to be Queen of Dorian. Philip is my brother, my twin, and was born 3 minutes after me. He wanted the crown, and I was in his way." Griffin shakes his head in disbelief. It can't be true. Why would he let this nightmare continue? You're saying he could have ended it all this time? I am. Now, I want to know what you meant when you said you weren't being completely honest with me about having a message from your king. Our conversation has drawn out longer than any other. Usually, by now, I'm done and back in my home as another body sinks to the pile of bones beneath the pier. But I'm curious to know what he's hiding. I'm also giving him the benefit of the doubt, because I find it interesting to learn that my brother has somehow misled the people to believe I was born this way, and I'm nothing more than a terror on their kingdom. Well, he starts, then turns to wave a hand toward the beach. If you weren't going to end the curse, then I was going to ask you for a favor. A favor? Movement catches my attention from the carved doorway in the cliffside. A woman steps out holding a young man's hand. He looks to be 15 or 16 years old. If you won't or can't end the curse, will you please give us peace like you've given the others? I stare at him, then at the woman leading the young man out onto the pier. The boy stops several times, but then moves after the woman whispers something in his ear. What is she telling him? I ask Griffin. That it'll all be over soon. Peace through death? I let myself sink below the water's surface to take in the bones piled up beneath the pier. I stare at them, and even though they are only bones, no flesh, I can tell they're smiling. They're free. I never gave it much thought that killing them would also release them from the curse. The curse that's meant to punish them for supporting Philip. Well, that ends today. I'll find another way to appease the cravings of the creature inside me. Returning to the water's surface, I see the woman and the boy standing next to Griffin. Take me first, the woman says, stepping out in front. No, I don't think I will, I say with a cunning smirk. Instead, I think we can help each other. They glance at one another, puzzled looks crossing their faces. Griffin moves closer to the dock edge. So you will break the curse? I nod, and they hug each other and cheer. The end of the pier jostles, and they all freeze, hoping not to fall into the icy waters. But I wasn't lying about not being able to break the curse. The only way the everlasting winter will end and time will resume is for my brother, your King Philip, to release me from this underwater prison, to restore my human form, and allow me to take my place as Queen of Dorian. He won't agree to any of that, the woman shouts. Griffin holds out a hand, trying to calm the woman before facing me. She's right. There's no way King Philip will ever do any of that. He'd probably kill me and them. He gestures to the woman and boy. For even leaving the cove alive. They need to prove their loyalty to you, the magic of the North whispers in my mind. All of them. One moment, I say, then dive. My tail fin splashes up into the cool air. With lightning speed, I race to my makeshift home. Inside, against the wall, is a small, smooth white rock with red veins. I found it long ago, and kept it as it looks like blood running through ice. A reminder of how much I hate Philip for killing our mother. Oh, yes, that will do, the magic of the North coos. You've got just enough magic stored to make this work. Cupping one hand over the top while the other holds the stone, I close my eyes and squeeze. Let this stone be a collection of truth for all who pledge their loyalty to me, the creature who lives beneath the icy black water of the cove, the true ruler of Dorian. Once every citizen of Dorian pledges their loyalty, let this stone weaken and immobilize the man who has cursed me to this prison. The veins within the stone glow red before fading. I flick my tail and launch myself up into the open waters, swimming back to the pier. Griffin and the others are there waiting. Here, I say, reaching upward, handing the red-veined stone to the man. He hesitates, but takes it. What do I do with it? Go and tell my story to everyone in the kingdom. Have them pledge their loyalty to me, their true queen, by touching the stone of truth. But be warned, if they are lying or being deceptive in their pledge, the magic of the North will know and end their life right then and there. And once everyone has touched the stone and pledged their allegiance to you, then what? Then rest the stone on my brother's chest while he sleeps. The stone will do the rest. Once Philip is incapacitated, bring him to me. I can't help but smirk. I've waited a long time for this moment. For a plan to overthrow Philip and get my revenge for what he did to me and our mother. Griffin drops the stone into his pocket and nods. I'll make sure everyone knows the truth about who you are and what King Philip did to you. You have my word, Princess Celeste. They turn and leave, the kingdom's fate in their hands. Warmth swells in my core, filling me with hope as I sink below the water's surface. Months go by after my encounter with Griffin, and I worry the plan has failed. Have patience, the magic of the North tells me, trying to ease my growing concerns. You'll be walking with 2 feet before you know it. Then you'll be Queen Celeste of Dorian. My mind begins to drift, and I'm on the verge of a deep sleep when I hear my name echoing above. I jolt upright and shoot into the open waters, swimming straight for the pier. Cutting through the surface, I search the night for the person calling my name. Moonlight glistens along the surface, and I see the beach is filled with people. There's a small crowd standing at the end of the pier. I slowly approach, cautious not to get close enough to be captured and killed. There it is! Someone yells. Boots pound the wooden planks until all eyes are on me. She's not an it! A familiar voice rises above the murmurs, and Griffin pushes to the front of the crowd. He sets the lantern he's holding onto the pier, then crouches. Princess Celeste? It took a little longer than I expected, but the stone worked. I remember you. I don't know what happened or how I forgot, but the more people who pledged their loyalty, the more I remembered you from my life before the curse. I swim closer. When a wave of gasps erupts, I know I've gotten close enough. Even Griffin's mouth gapes. You look different, he says, white puffs of breath filling the air around his face. What happened? I used a glamour to hide my true appearance. It's easier to lure curious people out onto the pier if they're not scared of me. Easier to drown, someone shouts from behind Griffin. Easy there, Griffin says over one shoulder. We're all on the same side now. Clenching my sharp nails into my palms, I refrain from climbing up onto the pier and piercing them into that man's flesh. Breathe, princess, breathe, the magic of the North says in my mind. Bloodshed will only make them run, and then what? You'll be left in permanent isolation. Fine, fine, I silently respond. I won't claw out anyone's eyes unless they force my hand. Did you finish the job? I ask. Griffin stands and waves a hand over his head, calling for something to be brought forward. The pier is only a few feet wide, but with so many people, it's hard for me to see what they're doing. A broad-shouldered man with a bandage wrapped around the top of his head sets down an unconscious man. No, wait. He's not unconscious, because the man's glossy eyes are open wide and staring right at me. It's Philip. I look up at Griffin. You did it. The creature in me stirs for what's to come. Revenge. I've never wanted anything more than to make my brother pay, and now that day has come. The man with the bandage around his head takes a few steps back, What happened to him? I ask, pointing a webbed finger at him. Griffin glances back at him, gives him a nod, then turns to tell me. Well, you said the stone would know who was involved in your mother's murder. And it did. There were some men, he pauses, that refused to pledge their allegiance. We had to use brute force to restrain them. He rubs one hand along his beard while shaking his head. You touched the stone to them? Griffin nods. And they failed. The stone knew. Griffin nods again. I don't know how, but an invisible force swept through the castle and attacked the men, slicing open their throats right in front of us. I'm sorry you had to see that, but they got what they deserved. Blood for blood. My heart races with panic as I realize the stone has punished them in the same way Mother died. Glaring at Philip, I swim closer. Is that how you killed her? With a blade to the throat? You said she felt no pain. I wipe the tears streaming down my cheeks. You may have turned me into a hideous lake creature, but it's you, brother, who was born a soulless monster. I look up at Griffin and ask, where's the stone? He fumbles in his coat pocket until he finds it. The red veins glow with energy, fueled by the pledges of everyone in the kingdom willing to follow me. When he hands it to me, all the power within flows from the stone and into my hands, recharging my magic. I gasp as my insides burn with the magic of the north. My time as an underwater creature has been filled with ice and darkness, and for the first time in a long time, I feel a renewed sense of who my father wanted me to be. Philip releases a loud groan, drawing my attention to his face. He's unable to move his muscles, so his words come from the back of his throat, barely coherent. You haven't won yet, sister. For a moment, I think he's trying to say something else, but then I realize what he's doing. A faint glow of magic is forming in one of his bound hands. Tisking, I say. I don't think so. It's time for you to atone for what you've done. I plunge underwater. With the stone in one hand, I speak the words to unbind the curse placed upon me. The last of the red-veined magic seeps into my skin, and I let the stone fall to the lake floor. Forgive them all, and your curse will be broken, the magic of the north tells me. I don't know if I can. You must. They've pledged their loyalty to you. Now, finish breaking the curse and accept them as the people of your kingdom. Fine. I forgive them. And with those words, a whirlpool spins me faster and faster, launching me up and out of the water. Everyone at the end of the pier parts as I land in the center. Dripping wet, I lie, curled up mere inches from my brother. Griffin rushes to my side, pushing back strands of black hair from my face. Princess Celeste, are you okay? Lifting my arms and pushing myself into a sitting position, I say, slightly winded, Yes. Thank you, Griffin. I hold out my hands, and he helps me to my feet. My actual 2 feet. I stumble, and the man with the bandage around his head catches me. I press my hands against his chest, eager to regain my balance and put some distance between us. I'm not used to physical contact, except for when a poor soul is fighting back, trying not to die, as I pull them to the lake's floor. But this man, or any one of them for that matter, isn't trying to kill me. Sorry, I say, then turn to face Griffin. And thank you for believing me. He gestures to their former king. And him? His punishment shall be equal to his crime. I get down on both knees and place my hands on his chest. Philip's eyes are trembling, silently pleading with me, but I ignore him. I also ignore the northern magic speaking in the back of my mind, warning me to be careful. You are human again. Time has resumed. All is normal, and yet all is the same. The creature was not all Philip's doing. The creature was in you all this time. Be mindful of the bloodlust. I know exactly how I'll handle the cravings. Quietly and discreetly, and with elegance like a queen. But first, I plunge my still sharp nails into Philip's chest. His only reaction is his eyelids opening to their fullest. Everyone behind me gasps and steps away. I don't care that their eyes are on me. This is my moment to make him pay, and I want every second to last. Whispering, I cast Philip to live an eternity in an underwater prison. The same prison he'd sentenced me to. After I withdraw my hands from his chest, blood dripping from my fingers, I roll him off the pier and into the water. The last part of my spell is an exchange. His eternal life as a prisoner to the northern magic for the curse I placed over the kingdom to be broken. To end the everlasting winter. Let it be, I say to the sky. Let it be, the magic of the north replies within my mind. I can't help but smile as the collective laughter echoes in my mind, because these people have no idea what's to come. Of the creature they've just freed and promised the throne. I'm no longer that naive little girl. Now, by day, I'm Queen Celeste of the Kingdom of Dorian, and by night, Glace Noir will come out to play. I hope you enjoyed listening to Glace Noir by Kimberly Grymes, narrated by Karyne Norton. If you want to read more by Kimberly, go to kimberlygrymes.com to find more of her books. You can also find up-to-date information on her Kickstarters, Patreon, and podcast on her links page at kimberlygrymes.com/links. If you're new to the Finding Fantasy Reads podcast, you might want to check out my other podcast, which is a serialized audiobook of my debut novel, Blood of the Stars. Pater and I narrate my fantasy series as well, so if you enjoy listening to the Finding Fantasy Reads podcast, I think there's a good chance you'll enjoy listening to the audiobook as well. You can find it on all the same podcasting platforms under Blood of the Stars, or you can listen on my website at karynnorton.com/audio. As always, I will have links for all those sites in the show notes. Thank you all for listening, and happy reading.